Okay, so before we fully get into this, uh, is the music echoing? If it is it loud enough that it's being a distraction, or is it fine? Do it in the standard Word doc like last time. It's a bit loud. Perfect, I'll fix it then. Yeah, but excuse the fact that I had the wrong freaking Aqua thumbnail up or whatever. Just really like that art. I can't deny. Does that sound better now? Huh. I don't want that. There we go. Alright, we may not need this many. Music sounds like the same volume. Huh. Turn it down just a smidge more then. It's not playing through the microphone anymore like it was before. It's only through the speakers. Where is the Aqua thing? Wait. Oh gosh, it's so bright. Alright, I need to... Oh, that's actually perfectly sized, weirdly enough. I didn't put the whole list of games up on the screen this year, but I have a second one. I don't know, does it show up on the screen that way? No, it does, just the one. I also did not finish editing this one. This one might be a bit of a lame one in terms of past years. You didn't do so well. Understandable. This is probably one of the smaller years I've done in a while, and a lot of them are replays. So maybe for the sake of discussion, I will still have them covered anyway. Oh man, it's really hard for the chat to be seen on the screen. You don't want to be sad, so here you are. I may not have enough games to even fill up all of the different slots in the tier list, but usually S through F is usually good, right? I don't know. So, hopefully it's not too bright for the screen. There's a decent amount here, but it's definitely one of my weaker years, it looks like. But maybe more. I don't know. Better put Bug Fables in the S tier. To be honest, it probably isn't gonna have a massive amount of challenge to get into S. I didn't play a lot of S tier worthy titles this year, so there is that. Kind of wish I had both windows up, but oh, okay. Well, I can do it this way. Keep an eye on the frames. Okay, so I guess we'll go ahead and start then, and I will start with. I guess it makes more sense with the way I have it categorized over here in the other tab to just go in orders of the games I finished and just move from there. So the first one I'll hear on the list is This Is the Police 2. And I might have by counting Minecraft in the list. I mean, if we want to have to go ahead and talk about things that maybe I didn't finish or finish-worthy things I could. But there's not much to talk about, to be honest. So This Is the Police 2. I think I briefly talked about this last year because it was one of those borderline titles where I both finished it both last year and this year, or rather 2021 and 2022. And I don't remember where I put it there before, but God, what a one to start off with. There's a lot of cons in This The Police 2's favor, but it wasn't an overall horrible experience. I'll probably put it in C then. And the thing is, I can understand that, Ramirez, and it does kind of. It's one of those simulation type of games, and those kind of could be hit or miss anyway. But for me, mostly, it was. Normally, when you play a sequel, it addresses the problems that come up with the original game, for example. Like, normally when you expect a sequel to come out, it expands upon what was great about the first game and adds more good things to it. And I don't feel like This Is the Police 2 did that very well at all. Like, it had a pretty decent story, but, like, considering where the story of This Police 1 ends off, This Is the Police 2 does not resolve that story in a very satisfying way. It's mostly a very kind of dark, bittersweet type of ending to it. So it's like story one, but its story is its strongest feature. Its gameplay, I think, in some elements are worse than the original. The new elements it adds to fill in time, honestly, I think just detract away from the good gameplay elements the first game had. And then there's the major flaw of the fact that after Act 3, I believe it is, or Chapter 3 or whatever, there's a potential game-breaking bug where sometimes if you just save at certain parts after Chapter 3 or whatever is completed, I think there's like 4 chapters, by the way, at least of what I'm remembering how, or 4 segments of the game I'm thinking of. Sometimes if you save the game during that 4th segment and quit, sometimes without any understanding as to why, the game's file will corrupt and you will have to start over. So for me to finish This Is the Police 2, despite the fact that I did platinum it, because I was basically done with it anyway, I actually had to play through the entire final act of the game in basically one sitting without ever going back to the title screen. You could not reset, you could not do anything, so it was... And I had to keep constantly creating save backups to my PlayStation account to make sure that if something did happen, I could redo it again. So I have some bad blood with This Is the Police 2, but it does affect the score, not because of, oh, what, you had a personal bug problem. No, a lot of people had that personal bug problem. And it's probably a reason why they haven't touched the series since. And they didn't even go back and fix it after several years. So, yes. Voice acting in that game, though, is phenomenal. I like the art style. It has things I want to like it for, but not enough of things. So moving on, then, what's next? What else did I finish in January? I think I'm gonna finish 2 games, and, and it's Pokemon Emerald. The list is small enough that normally I don't tier list games I've already completed and done in a replay, but for the sake of having something to do, I'll go ahead and tier the games I've finished anyway. I'll probably put... Exactly, I agree with that one, Ramirez. The art style was really good, I liked it, and it's just like... This The Police 2 just did not deliver on what I was looking for. So, for Pokemon Emerald, it's either A or B, really. It's like... It's kind of in a way where when I was a kid, I'd probably say it was an A or an S. Nowadays, after having played more Pokemon games and seen more things, understanding the flaws with it, I might put it in B. Because it's like, Emerald is a super solid Pokemon title, and, well, maybe I will put it in A. It's like, I don't know, I don't feel like if it's an A, it's a very low A, because... if I was to go back and look at it through a natural game playing thing, it has a lot of really weird grinding you have to do in order to beat the Elite Four, and Pokemon Emerald doesn't really give you a great way to do that after the 8th gyms are over, because then you're grinding against a lot of low-level enemies in Victory Road, and it's a pretty bad design flaw. There's just nowhere to really level up and progressively do good in Emerald once a certain point. Like, replaying it, I had to, what was it? What was it? I had to, grind levels off of some of the wild Pokemon in Victory Road, which was not fun. It took a couple of hours. And the reporter duo battles, and that was rough. It was rough, but like, you know, Emerald's flawed, but it's definitely a high B tier item, and I think it still, for the most part, holds up today. So the next up, we move on to February. It's another Pokemon game, and it's Pokemon Legends Arceus. Now that one, I think I'm gonna... It's a high A tier, I think. And the reasoning is like, it's not a perfect game. It's not a perfect Pokemon game or anything like that. I really enjoyed it and had a lot of fun playing it. Like, I 100%ed it as far as I can tell. It was fun to shiny hunt in. Only real things I think I had a flaw with it, really, was, like kind of a lack of really battling, which I know is not really the major thing. No real multiplayer mode outside of trading, which feels kind of strange to incorporate that in the first place. Especially when it doesn't really. It was definitely built to be a single-player Pokemon game, and I don't know, like kind of a sort of lack of quote-unquote post-game content. I mean, the whole thing is collecting. I mean, there is some Pokemon, some post-game content. I just wasn't ones I was super a fan of. It was mostly battling style post-game content, but it was fun. It's just not a perfect Pokemon game, but it is a high A tier. I definitely want to do it on stream again. I want to do it on stream sometime and play through it again, through another Aqua playthrough, because those were fun. If anyone hasn't seen Arceus, it's a fun game to experience at least once. It may not replace Pokemon for most players, but for some people who don't like the standard format, the Arceus was a really fun way to do it. Okay, and the another game in February. See, January and February only had 2 games each this year, which was not very much. And February was Pikmin 2. And I'm gonna be honest, I still think Pikmin 2 is so good it deserves an S tier, because I still undoubtedly, after all these years and replaying it, Pikmin 2 is easily my favorite entry in the Pikmin franchise for sure. Like Pikmin 3 was a lot of fun. Pikmin 1 is a good classic, but Pikmin 2 I think is just a perfect Pikmin game to me. Like I think the only thing that could make Pikmin 2 better if they ever re-released it was actually do either local or online co-op in the story, because you have the ability of doing Louis and Olimar or Olimar and the President, and you have that potential. So I feel like, Pikmin 2 is a game I think should get re-released someday with new mechanics like that to adjust the game for a co-op style. I can respect the fact that Pikmin 2 may not be your favorite. I think it was the dungeon crawling and the massive amount of weird treasure. It was the treasure hunting element mostly that I loved about Pikmin 2. I think Pikmin 3 Deluxe didn't have it. The CEO of Pikmin. There's not a whole lot really to say about Pikmin 2, and it's a bonus modes and it's quote unquote multiplayer challenge mode, which I never got to do with my sister, but maybe sometime this year. Aqua Sip? Shouldn't that? Aqua Sip has been buggy for people lately. I don't know why. But Pikmin 2 had a lot of great extra modes that were a lot of fun, and doing them gave you little tiny snippets of the true story, which I think was a great way to reward people for that back then when the internet didn't spoil everything yet. But Pikmin 2 is a banger of a game. What is this song? I'm curious. Kirby Squeak Squad, Ice Island. Okay, I was just curious. There you go. Maybe you can only redeem a certain number of them. Okay, so March we're getting into a couple more titles. So March is definitely going to be more bulky. The first one is Pokemon Colosseum. And... oh, does Pokemon... okay, so if this was Pokemon XD, I'd probably put it in S tier. Pokemon Colosseum goes into A tier for sure. But again, high A tier as well, like borderline S tier. But it's just lacking a little bit. If it was Pokemon XD, it'd probably be S tier for sure, because XD specializes on what Colosseum did and does it better. So it's just, aside from story and the darker stuff, I spelled that wrong. That's okay. Okay, I suppose I just know what I'm just gonna leave it as that. Colo. I don't care. You guys know I can't spell. The free 2000 UXD. But like, Pokemon XD is just the superior version of Colosseum in just about every way, except maybe the slightly darker storyline. But then again, that's a preference thing. So, It was a lot of fun. I love the double battle elements of it. It's just very fun. It was a very fun Pokemon game, and I really enjoy it, and I really, really would love to see those games either get a new installment or get re-released or remade, remastered, or whatever on, like, say, the Switch's lifespan. Maybe. I would love to see all that in glorious HD. So Pokemon Brilliant Diamond. Oh, there was a lot of Pokemon this year, so be prepared for that. Brilliant Diamond. Okay, well, it's either C or D. It's not bad enough to be F. I might actually have to move this is the police down here. It's Brilliant Diamond's bad. Like, we had a lot of fun with it, don't get me wrong. It was really fun having a Miitopia / just viewer-based team run. It made for a very interesting challenge, but the game is just bad. It looks fine. It doesn't look horrible, but it kind of spits in the face of what the Pokemon remakes really usually are. Re-implemented a lot of very, very, very bad gameplay designs back from the DS, and not even from the superior Pokemon Platinum, but just, you know, the inferior Diamond and Pearl. So that's bad. The selection of Pokemon, it was great to have a lot of old ones reusable again on the Switch, but they're just reusable on a game that no one wants to play, competitive-wise or anything like that. It's like, if I had been playing it by myself, it would have been boring as all get out. The challenge mode with that really made that game bearable, to be honest. It's like, it's just a big waste of time, if I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I've already played original Diamond and Pearl, and I've played Platinum. Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl do nothing but just bring that Gen 4 experience to the Switch, which, if I'm gonna be honest, it does it in such a bad way. You would have been better off just porting the original games, changing nothing but adding current gen manipulation tactics, like, say, trading with current stuff. If you just did that and added it probably would have been better, because at least then you could have been able to tell how lazy it was. Very little things were done well in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and it shows so bad. Game Freak's laziness by pushing it to someone else to do really, really, really hurt that game. And it really makes me afraid for other Pokemon remakes going forward. That's how bad it was. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever played. It's not bad enough to go in F tier. It is still Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, but they're just worse versions of them. So it's like, it's in a tier list of itself. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl go on the bottom, then regular Diamond and Pearl go right above it, because at least then it had the excuses of what it did, and then Platinum right on top of it. So it's like, it's the worst version to play if you just want to re-experience it, personally. I only truly got it to have the compatibility things with home and junk like that, so that was really mostly the only thing. I didn't need to play Diamond and Pearl again. Exactly. It's like, see, I don't like its art style. See, here's the thing. I'm going to go on a little mini rant, but very mini, not very long. I've done this before. It just took the idea of, like, hey, look, we're being faithful to the original in terms of our design, but, like, it's not being faithful, you're being lazy. Link's Awakening is being faithful to the original, but doing something still very different from what the original Link's Awakening was. It took the same, like, viewpoints and gameplay style, but gave it a really nice coat of paint. Like you went to the high-end store and got, like, the really nice artist paints and stuff. Diamond and Pearl looks like they went to the paint store and got the Dollar General brand or the Walmart brand from the dollar section, just slapped it on. It's a new coat of paint, but it objectively makes the game look worse. It's so lazy. Link's Awakening had its own level of laziness to it, but at least it still felt like a fresh-made experience. Whereas... Exactly, it's very stylistic working. Diamond and Pearl is so bland. Like, because, like, the Pokemon games coming up from in the years, like, say, back when the Red and Blue were first remade as Fire Red and Leaf Green, they took old Game Boy style games and brought them up. Going on music, I know. I don't know how this is Christmas. I don't know. It must be the one from Majora's Mask. Yeah, it's the Goron Village from Majora's Mask, which is just Goron Mountain Village, the same song. So I don't know, you know. But it technically sure it's a winter location, but like anyway, it's like well, I lost my train of thought because of the laugh. It's like, okay, so it's like Fire Red and Leaf Green. They looked like they took the original games of Red and Blue and brought them into the advanced era of gameplay style and art style. So it transformed them into looking like something completely different. Which at the time, it made it look like the most advanced Pokemon game they had made, because they updated the art style to the new game's art styles that was currently going on. Or like, same thing with Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Those games from the Game Boy Color were brought up to the Nintendo DS styles of graphics, gave it all kinds of models, reworked the overworld, all kinds of stuff, gave you different perspectives on the same world you'd played before. It enhanced it. It changed how it was. And then, of course, they did the same thing with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. They made those to the same style that X and Y were. So it was in a pseudo 3D at that point. So people, like myself, expected Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl to do basically take Diamond and Pearl, but put it in a Sword and Shield art style world, which may or may not have worked, but at least it would have been keeping the status quo. No, they just pretty much recreated the original game's world in a different engine. Rather than upscaling it to the new world standards, it was left in its old style. And it bothered me. That was the major spit in the face, and I'm really afraid for Gen 5. That was the major reason why it's so bad to me. So anyway, moving on, because I spent too much time talking on that one. The next game is from March was Kenya, the Bridge of Spirits, and that might be an S tier title. I love the song. Now, I didn't play this on stream. I might play it on stream at some point, if people wanted to see it. Now, who out here remembers back before the Majora's Mask remake was confirmed, and I believe it was a YouTube channel called Ember Labs, which had made a fan-made movie-style trailer of Majora's Mask, kind of teasing what they felt like the Majora's Mask world could look like. I think it was called... I don't think it was called Time's End, but... So basically, that studio, they made a video game, which is Kenya, the Bridge of Spirits, which I think is only available on PlayStation and the Epic Game Store. It's not very good options. But they made a game in that style of art style, in a very ancient-looking world / jungle type of world, and you're playing as like a spirit guide, and you go and you guide these lost spirits from this destroyed world so they can go back to the afterlife and let go their pain of their world that had been destroyed. And that's kind of the general plot of the game. And the thing is, the game looks like how that kind of movie looks at all times. It's not like, oh, it looks beautiful in the cutscenes and it kind of drops in gameplay. It looks like a cutscene through the whole game. It's not a very long game. It's probably maybe 20 hours-ish, maybe. That might be overselling it. I don't know. I can't really remember how long it was. but like it just looks from start to finish fantastic, and it's really fun too. It's not super long. It's a great game if you love collectathon things because it has a lot of secrets and things to find in these worlds. No DLC because it gives you all that ability to do like costumes and junk like that in game, like games should do them. It's really good. It's probably the most beautiful game I've played this year or this last year. Well, one other game might give it a run for its money, but hands down as an indie game, it's one of the most beautiful indie games I've ever seen, for sure. And just for its music and art style and stuff alone was kind of S tier, but the gameplay is also just really solid. Like, it's not the most solid thing I've ever played, but it works really well, and there's no flaws with it, so it doesn't pull down the ranking anything. The combat doesn't push it up or anything, but like, the rest of the game puts it in S, pretty much. Also, the whole game is voice acted, so that's another nice thing. Even the protagonist is voice acted. There's not a lot of conversation in the game, but everything that is talking in that game is voice acted. I think just about everything. The only thing that might not be voice acted is things like maybe the shop menu and stuff, but you're not really dealing with real talkative characters in those situations anyway. So, very good game. That's weird. Isn't it interesting how I have more to say about the bad games than I do about the good ones? It's very good. It's something I would like to see play on stream sometime. Next one's Metal Gear Solid 3. And that game is fantastic. It was a really big step up for me in terms of Metal Gear's gameplay. It wasn't perfect still in terms of gameplay, but it was still way better than 1 and 2, and it had a very sad story. I'll put it in there in A tier. And it's a very good game. I think it's just because sometimes you have to explain more why something is very bad than why something is very good. Like, sometimes it's just like, like Metal Gear Solid 3 does have some tedious stuff in it, and for me, I have a hard time picking that game back up if I put it down for too long. I had a problem with that, getting through it. But had I stayed focused, it would have probably not have been as bad. But it's voice acting, it's story, and everything kind of brings it up to A. I feel like it's not mediocre enough to be in B, or maybe not even mediocre, but it's like, I don't know, I feel like it's too good to be in the B tier, really. Like, gameplay definitely brings it down a little bit, but it was still better than 1 and 2 for gameplay. So it's like, it wasn't my favorite gameplay, like it was Metal Gear Solid 4, but Metal Gear Solid 3 was very fun, and this was the year of me really dipping my toes into the Metal Gear Solid franchise, this and last year, and it was a series I really wish I had played when I was younger. But I'm glad I did now, because I definitely appreciate it for what it was. It's rough because, like, this man, you see, the protagonist of Metal Gear Solid 3, kind of in a sense is the villain of the rest of the series. So it's like, how did this man, you watched it go through all of this and had to do all these rough things, become a villain later on? It's like so rough to watch. It's even more rough when you understand more of the things of Metal Gear Solid 3, like, for example, who Boss's secret child was. Things like that. But I don't want to get into spoilers of that series, because it's something, like, you should experience or at least watch, because it's so good. I really enjoyed it. Maybe not play it yourself, but find a good way to watch it, because the games have aged pretty rough, and the only way to play them being on the PS3, there's not a great way to experience the series outside of a few of the entries. Okay, so the next one, where did my file go? Now we're going into April. with Sonic Adventure is the next one. And Sonic Adventure... I think Sonic Adventure will join Emerald in the B tier. Like... I think, honestly, for how old Sonic Adventure is... Oh yeah, this is happening. For how old Sonic Adventure is, it being, I think, in B tier is still a really solid place, considering how much that game has aged and has not aged fantastically. I played the GameCube version, which is closest, I think, to the... Well, actually, it might be the most advanced version of it. I don't really know. Like, Sonic Adventure is great. I'm more of a Sonic 2 Adventure fan myself, but Sonic Adventure 1 did a lot of good things. It was still a lot of fun, a lot of characters, a lot of fun. It was just solid good time. Like, not a whole lot to really say about it. I mean, it was fun. I mean, it's kind of hard to judge older games by new game standards because of the generational gap. But I'm glad to see the popcorn emote is getting some traction. I'm glad I put it in there. The SADX mod on Steam. I'd have to try that out sometime. I think it still holds up well in today's standards, especially by some of today's Sonic games, let's be honest. Like, I don't have a whole lot to say about Sonic Adventure, though. The girl Tikal. It's been a while it's been since April since we've seen Tikal. I miss her every day. Is that it for? Oh no, April. We got one more game, which was Spider-Man's Miles. I don't know, Melts, to be honest. I just think she's sweet. That's really about all it is. And I like the fact that she kind of is like your Navi of the game. But it's like for the whole, most of the game, you think it's just the voice actress doing the voice for the instructional parts. And you find out it's her spirit helping you throughout the whole adventure, which helps it a little bit, I guess. Become full fury. I'm not a furry. So the next one over Omochao. Yeah, she was like the Omochao of Sonic Adventure 1, pretty much. But I liked her a lot better than Omochao. But the next one was Encourage Your Depression. So the next game on here was where'd it go? I lost it. Okay, it was Spider-Man. It was Spider-Man Miles Morales. That game came out. What was it? 2021, I think it was, because it launched with the PlayStation 5, and obviously most people did not get a PlayStation 5 until much later into things. So I played it sometime after my sister was able to get a PS5, and I started playing it after my brother had finished it. It's not a very long game, but where would that go? It probably would go in A for a couple of reasons. Like I can't remember how to spell Miles for a second there. It's, I think, story-wise not as good as the first Spider-Man game that was on the PlayStation 4, and I guess PC now. But gameplay-wise, it was a lot better. Like, PS4 Spider-Man already had a lot of really good gameplay for a Spider-Man game, so the Miles Morales game kind of just did that and did more of it. And Miles is a more fun character to play as because the Miles Morales Spider-Man has a lot more superpowers than Peter Parker does. So it gives you a lot more to work with in terms of just being a punching and webbing video game. You have a lot more really weird, I think, a lot more really weird powers to work with. So it gives you a lot more. The story wasn't as good, but considering it felt more like a DLC than a real, what is this song? Or like, hold on, I lost my train of thought. I need to know what this song is. Yo, Story of the Seasons, I knew that's what that was. I'm gonna have to loop that. I'm gonna have to hit the loop button on this. But crap, where'd all my stuff go? It was very short. It felt again more like a DLC to the Spider-Man than it did an actual like spin-off or it wasn't really a sequel. It was more like an in-between-quel. Like I knew this song, but it was like it was very short. Like I think the game. I mean, I was going for platinum, so I was doing a lot of the extra optional stuff. But it's a game you could probably easily finish in like if you focused solely on the story, probably in like a day, like maybe 6 hours or something. I don't know. It was definitely probably the shortest AAA game on this list for this year. So the time frame does hurt it a little bit, but like it's just, how do I say it? It's like, I don't know. It's most of what brings it up to A is its gameplay and whatnot. Miles is a really good character. He's maybe not as good as Peter because you're just not as invested in him, and the story's just kind of. But it tells a full story in the very small amount of time it has, and it doesn't really feel rushed, per se. It feels like you watched, like, a short series, like a Disney Plus series of a superhero, rather than a movie series or something like that. It's long enough, story-wise, but it just feels gameplay-wise, it feels very short. It feels like the entirety of Spider-Man's DLC was longer than the Miles Morales game. And it was pretty rough charging $50+ for the Miles Morales game, when the game could probably be finished in 10 hours. Especially if you're really good at it. But, sorry about all that noise a little bit ago. I don't know what's going on. Why is Kappa back? I have no clue. But, no, it was good. I can't believe it's been since April since I played that. Alright, so now we're going into May. And there's some games here that I don't know if I technically would count. I didn't technically finish this game in May, but it was May/July I finished it in, but we'll just go ahead and go with it next. And it was Pokemon Mystery Dungeon 2, The Explorers of the Sky. Be honest, that's another really good A-tier game. I finished the main game in May, and then it was in July I finished the post game. Like, you guys were there for most of it. It's got really good writing for a Pokemon game. It's got a surprisingly dark story. It's got a Xenoblade 3S. Xenoblade 3 probably going to beat S now that I think about it. But Explorers of the Sky does a lot of good. How's it going, Jack? By the way, it technically was a new game too because I never actually played the Sky content. I only ever played the base original game of Pokemon Explorers of the Darkness. Yes, Happy New Year to you too. By the way, Happy New Year, everybody. I didn't necessarily say that in stream yet. I didn't think about it. But yes, Happy New Year, everybody. Like, Explorers of the Sky was good gameplay-wise. I heard it was like the last of the good mystery dungeons. But don't quote me on that. I didn't play the other ones after that. Very good story, very good cast, very good gameplay. Nothing that really soars it into S or anything. Maybe if this was... I can't believe it hasn't streamed since last year. I know, it's been so long. Not a whole lot to say about on Explorers of the Sky, other than that it was just very good. Oh, right, I didn't even include Splatoon 3 on here because I did not, quote-unquote finish Splatoon, but I'll probably include it for the conversation. So now, another game I played, it was just on my off time, I did not play it on stream, was, you probably have heard it, it was like an Ubisoft game that was pushed a lot, like the last few years, or sort of pushed, was Immortals Fenyx Rising, which was like Ubisoft game that was basically on everything. And I haven't played Engage, no. I don't know if I will be doing it anytime soon. I still haven't even played Three Houses. Might place Immortals Fenyx Rising in B. Oops. So a little bit to talk about Fenyx Rising, because I didn't play it on stream, so no one knows really my thoughts of it. I guess also it's like, so it's an Ubisoft game, which is usually a bad thing, but the game's actually not that bad. Like, it starts off with the premise of you are like a castaway that lost your family in like the, ancient island of the gods or some nonsense, like the Greek gods, like Zeus and stuff like that. The goal game is told through a story perspective of Prometheus telling the story to Zeus while Zeus and Prometheus are just chatting. So all the narrative things and the vice stuff, it's just you hear Zeus and Prometheus arguing, and it's just like, narratively wise, it's pretty fun. You can build your protagonist, actually, I don't think you can name them. I had mine look like Aqua, despite the fact she was Phoenix the whole time. There's a lot of really cool power-ups to it, and it plays kind of similarly to, like, a Breath of the Wild game. It's not quite like... It feels like it has more in common with Genshin Impact in terms of gameplay than Breath of the Wild, but only in terms of, like, some of the limiting features, like, and how the gliding works and stuff. But, like, there's a lot of really cool... Yes, Breath of the Wild, the genre. Exactly. Like, it has things like stamina and health and all that nonsense, like, traversal skills. It's, like, it does a lot more than I expected it to. Like, how Breath of the Wild's got the runes, Phoenix has, like, the powers of the gods. And some of them can be pretty cool, some of them are pretty meh. But there's a lot going on there, and I had fun with it. I didn't actually go back and play the DLC. When I finished the game, I kind of just put it down and just didn't touch it again. Because I don't know, I feel like even though I didn't do everything, I had gotten my fill of it. It's got a pretty big overworld to explore, lots of collectibles. It almost feels like it's a microtransaction-y game, but, like, it's not, because everything you ever need is in the game. You just kind of have to grind or just explore the world to get all the things you want to get. Oh, it's like Animal Crossing at New Year's, right? What is that song? Oh, Toy Day on New Leaf. That's what it was. Oh, I love this song. But, like, it wasn't bad. It wasn't great. Like, it wasn't really, really good. But it wasn't bad at all. It was a very average to slightly above average game. Like, better than I expected it to be for how cheap it was. Like, if you can afford it and you like the, as Melts put it, the Breath of the Wild genre, it's a good time killer. And the fact you could play it on basically any system is pretty nice. Like, I played it on PlayStation 5 personally. I was looking for games to play on the PS5 this year, so that's one of the ones I played. And it looks pretty good. Like, it's also nice when most games have nearly all the text voice acted. That's always a nice touch. Whether or not you like those voice actors is another thing. I also really enjoyed the god aspect, kind of like how, like, in a similar way that Hades did it. Speaking of which, I heard Hades 2 has been announced, so that's kind of cool. I don't know how that's gonna work, but, you know, whatever. So yeah, Immortals Phoenix Rising was actually better than I thought, but it's not like... It doesn't get good enough to be an A-tier game, personally. But there's nothing wrong with a B-tier game, because B-tier games are still really good. It's when you start going below B-tiers when you start having to consider your options. There's worse ways to spend your time. Like, for example, you could play anything in C or B. That'd be a worse waste of your time. Alright, so the next one... Oh, God. This is technically not a finished game. It's finished in the sense where I'm probably not coming back to it for a while, was the first half, as I've deemed it, or Acts 1, 2, and 3 of Dragon Quest XI. And, oh god, I don't even know where to put this game. Strolling into the street. Like, I don't know where to put freaking Dragon Quest XI. The hard part is, I haven't seen the best that Dragon Quest XI apparently has to offer. But, like, it's not bad enough to be F. It really isn't. It's not bad enough to be F. Why I'm afraid of playing RPGs. Great way to put that. Okay, you know what? That kind of... It's C for me. Dragon Quest XI. For anyone who doesn't understand my problem with this game, it's like... The game starts off really good, at a really good pace, and then it starts slowing down. Like, Act 1 is pretty good. It's like your stereotypical RPG of like a classic one where it's like, you're the chosen one, the world thinks you're a bad guy, and you've got to get the super duper doodad of whatever to save the world. And then the second act comes out of nowhere, slaps you and be like, you failed, and now you're in the world where the villain wins. And then like Act 3 is like slaying that villain, or actually no, Act 2 is doing that and then giving back to your power and slaying the villain. And then Act 3 is going back in time to stop yourself from ever losing and realizing there's another villain. But I did not finish Act 3, so because Act 2 grinded your progress so much to a halt, and it's like, it takes a lot of problems narrative-wise, and the grinding of Dragon Quest is one of the worst I've ever had in an RPG. It's so absolutely tedious. Even the shortcuts to grinding are tedious in that game. It was awful. It was so bad. I probably didn't need to grind as much as I did. I just needed to strategize better. But, like, the game encourages grinding by giving you ways to grind quickly. So it's like, if the game leveled up in the sense that most RPGs I played this year did, we would not have had that problem. It's like, people say that the game is one of the best RPGs ever made, and most of that apparently comes from Act 3 and how the true ending of the game is. But, like, the second act put me off so badly that I just don't know if or when I'm ever gonna go back and finish the final act. I probably will, maybe sometime this year, I don't know, after I've played some other good RPGs. But as of right now, for what I have played of it, Dragon Quest sits at C, and even if it gets as good as it could get, story-wise, I still don't think it's gonna ever rise above B, personally. But of what I've played so far, it's C. Like, the music is good, but gets so repetitive because there's like 5 songs, and they all play over and over and over and over and over. The cast was really good. The protagonist is really bad because he doesn't talk. And it's a game where it really, really would strongly benefit to a speaking protagonist. Silent protagonists is a trope that I don't think has place anymore, because how so many people handle silent protagonists. Dragon Quest XI did such a bad job of that silent protagonist, especially considering he has family members and friends, and his past self speaks. It's just like, I can't. Dragon Quest XI is just, I don't know, of what I've played, a very flawed RPG, and I would not recommend it to people. Okay, next up is, now we're into June, so we're about halfway through the year. But don't worry, the rest of the year is pretty weak afterwards. So June is the first Devil May Cry I played, which is Devil May Cry 1. And... it's kind of hovering between B and C. I might, because I actually liked it, I might put it in B. I liked it more than I didn't like it. So the first Devil May Cry, I like when it works. Like when I think it works and when it doesn't. Exactly. Like, the first Devil May Cry was the only one I played so far, and I liked it enough to keep wanting to play it. It's an old game. It's dated. It's like pre-GameCube era old. So the controls don't handle really well, but the combat of the game is still fun. It would be more fun if you could handle it better. But it's an old game. There's not much you can do about it without a remake. Story's kind of weird, but like that's kind of also a late 90s, early 2000s type of game. It's like, it's just kind of par for the course. It's weird, but Dante's a pretty good character. It's good enough of a game. Honestly, if I'm being more honest, maybe it should be in the high C tier. It's like, and honestly, I think I might put it down there in C. But like, not because it's bad, but just because it's not good enough, if that makes sense. It just doesn't do a lot of... Get off of there. I can't get rid of it. Oh, whatever. It's like, there's not... I don't have a whole lot to say about Devil May Cry. Not because it's just, there's not a lot to Devil May Cry 1. It's like, I'm not no Devil May Cry expert or anything. But I enjoyed it, and I want to play more of them. More of the better ones. Then next is the Phantom Hourglass. I played that in June. Probably B. It's like the only Zelda game I played this past year, and like, it's a good Zelda game, but it's not a great Zelda game. It's a very middle of the road Zelda game. There's not a lot of bad Zelda games, and it's near the lower end of the Zelda games, but even some of the worst Zeldas are still very good games because they're Zelda games, and they have a level of quality to them that you don't dip out of very often. Like, it mostly is just as low as it is because the DS controls are not that great, but it's still fun. So I'll move on from that. July was when I finished the Mystery Dungeon post game. And it looks like the only other game I finished in July was Donkey Kong Country. I did remember to put him on the list, Ramirez. I did. I wasn't sure if I could remember. Donkey Kong Country was really the only game worth talking about now. I'll probably put it in B as well. Which I think B tier is fantastic for games that are that old. You guys were there. Like, it's good. Like, it's not bad. It's not a bad game at all. That was practically a joke playthrough. It was true. Like, I think honestly I would have hated it more or disliked it more if I actually had played it authentically and suffered through it a little bit more. Because it should have taken longer to get through the game, and I don't think anyone really wanted me to do that. So it took a while to get through it. And it would take longer to get through it, and I probably would have been more soured about it. But it's just a good game. Honestly, even if I had just been worse at it or taken longer, it probably really wouldn't have dropped that much. Maybe it might have dropped to C, possibly, but it took a banana. Yeah, it's good. Moving on. August. Only game oh my gosh, this year was really bad for me completing games. Well, only thing I played in August, or beat in August, was Sonic Adventure 2. Sonic Adventure 2, due to my bias, goes in the A tier. But, Sonic Adventure 2 has always been my favorite Sonic game. I wish it was a little longer and had a little more to it. It's like wish it had the length of Sonic Adventure 1, for example. But Sonic Adventure 2, I really liked it for its cast, its fun story, Shadow the Hedgehog, obviously. It was just good. Like, it was a good Sonic story, really. I think Sonic Adventure 2 still holds up today, and I would love to see it remade in a new current gen style with the same old voice acting and just done again. I would play it again. It makes me want to have more Sonic Adventure titles, honestly, and it's a shame that we haven't got any yet. So moving on, because there's not much to say about Sonic, but sometimes that's a good thing. September. The first one on September's list is Bug Fables, and not even due to Meltz's threats, to be honest, Bug Fables goes to S. Honestly. Like, it's not even a kiss-up competition or anything like that. It's nothing like that. Bug Fables is just genuinely that good. Like, I said it when I finished it. Bug Fables is easily top 3 indie games I've ever played. Like, it's right up there with the giants like Stardew Valley and stuff like that. It's like, it might even be number 2 of it. I'd have to really go through all the indie games I've ever played and just compare them. Like, not so good. But, like, Kenya's really good too, and I put that up there in the S tier. But Kenya's mostly there because of its art style and its beauty, its good soundtrack. It's like, but like Bug Fables, you know, Bug Fables is really great in just about every category. Its music is fantastic. I still love from time to time listening to Wasps. Like, that song stuck out so strongly to me. It had Pancake. That's good enough of a reason. Like, it had a really, really good cast with really good character development between those party members. Like, it may not have had the massive amount of party members that, say, Paper Mario 1 or 2 did, but it didn't need to because it packed it down into 3 characters and did a great job with all of them. Like, you know, it had a great gotcha moment where it's like, it faked you out thinking the big bad was your queen at all, but she actually turned out just to be a girl that really just could not handle it and just was upset, you know, and whatnot. Oh, a gross understatement for sure. The gameplay was really fun because it was Paper Mario style gameplay, but done extremely well. Like, it's right up there with how Paper Mario 2 plays. It might even be better. Like, it's like, it gives you a lot of room for strategic gameplay and ways to play your way. I think being able to do character building like that in an RPG really helps with the fun factor, because it lets you figure out what styles work, what don't work, and it's just a lot of fun. Like I said, music's great, visuals are great, because it takes the Paper Mario theme of like things looking like they're made of paper or just flat, like set pieces, but as an artistic like style, not as a this is a storybook world of things made of paper like every Paper Mario after Super Paper Mario did. Like, it's like there's it's like I struggle to think of flaws for Bug Fables. I really do struggle to think of flaws. And really, if there are flaws, it's mostly just minor nitpicks, really. Like, maybe the only thing I would say that it's not even a flaw, because it's not too short of a game either. Because you want more of the game doesn't make it too short. It has a lot of fun. I think maybe, I guess I wish there was more things you could have explored. But, like, you know, but there was still a decent amount of exploration involved. So it's like, again, it's not so much that it didn't do something, it's that I wanted more of something. But that's not the game's fault. It's better to hold back a little bit before, instead of then going all in and putting too much of something in. It had a very good amount of side quests, and the side quests always kept the characters in great character, like Leaf and stuff, as the card tournament thing. All that stuff was really fun. There's just, I don't have a lot to say about Bug Fables other than just saying how good it was. I struggle to honestly think of flaws with that game, and it's just, I'm at a loss, really. That's kind of, I guess maybe in one sense, yeah, it doesn't force grinding either. It forces you to be smart. Grinding really is not the required way. It's just to learn the gameplay mechanics and better equip yourself for a fight. And it actually encourages you to use items, because it builds the game around it, rather than for a Paper Mario where it's like, if you need items to get through, then you're doing something wrong. It's just, again, I struggle to think of negative things to say about Bug Fables. I wouldn't say it's a perfect game, but I also just don't know what I would say to improve on it. The title music's only okay. That's fair. That is fair. I'm sorry, right? There you go, alright, Slate. We're just a smidge over halfway through the year, so you can kind of see what we've been going on with on the screen. Bug Fables is like the easiest S tier of this list so far. I'm kind of surprised that it's really only sharing company with Kenya and Pikmin 2, but like, honestly, Bug Fables is probably the top spot of the S tier right now. I just didn't want to reorganize it right now. Pikmin 2 is like kind of right up there though. Okay, so let's continue. I don't know who you heard that from though, Ice. It's like, because I'm not sure how I feel about it. It's like, I mean, I guess maybe one thing I would say about Kenya that sucks is that it's actually incredibly short. Like, it's not a very long indie game, and for its price point, I would have hoped for it to be a little bit longer. But the game looks beautiful, and it's just good what it does. What is with the freaking frames? I'm hoping it's not actually dropping. It's a game I want to play on stream sometime. It does put a smile on the face. Yeah, I spent a good time explaining why Pokemon Brilliant Diamond is D tier. Part of me wonders if I should move This Is the Police down to D. Like, it's not bad enough to be an F tier. But like, F tier is really reserved for games that had no good merits at all, personally. And there is some good merits for Brilliant Diamond, but very, very few. So what's the next game now that I finished whatever what that was? Sonic. Okay, Metal Gear Solid 4. Okay, so that's the next one. It's gonna go up here in A again. It's gonna be better, I think, than Metal Gear. Well, it's kind of hard to say. Metal Gear Solid 4, like Metal Gear Solid 3, is very good. Gameplay-wise, it's much better than Metal Gear Solid 3 to me. Metal Gear Solid 4 is much better gameplay-wise. Colonel, I'm trying to sneak away. A very Metal Gear year. Exactly. Metal Gear had a lot of entries in here. They were all played off screen. I think some of its story, like the thing is, Metal Gear Solid 4 mostly wrapped up the entire franchise pretty much in its entry. Most of it anyway. So, like, as a standalone story, not as good as Metal Gear Solid 3's standalone story, but like, because I liked everything building up into 4, I also still really liked Metal Gear Solid 4's story. It was really sad dealing with a dying Solid Snake, and it does a lot. There's a lot that game does that's really good that hard to talk about without spoiling it. So I would highly recommend you watching it yourself. I don't know if I'd ever really stream them myself. I feel like I'd get too frustrated at them. So, you know, again, it's a solid A tier title. I feel like there's just a little bit things that weigh down each Metal Gear game that prevents it from getting an S tier entry. But if there was going to be an S tier entry, 4 is the closest to getting it, personally, of what I've played. Speaking of Metal Gear, the next entry on this list is Metal Gear Rising, which I played and finished right after Metal Gear Solid 4. And it's also going to be an A tier. Cosmic SS tier. Now hear me out for just a second. Hear me out. Metal Gear Solid Rising's story, it's pretty decent. It does well enough on its own without needing to be connected to the larger Metal Gear series. Raiden's a fantastic character, and this game does a lot of good for him. I wish it had built more off of what his character was left at in Metal Gear Solid 4. Like, it almost feels like it's the same character, but in an almost completely different world. Because so little of the rest of his story making Raiden a better character. I mean, to be fair, his character was pretty freaking awesome in Metal Gear Solid 4. So, I mean, I feel like Raiden itself just needed more expansion in 4 and in Rising. But he was still really good in this game. I'll say that gameplay-wise, it's very good, but I wish there was things, let's say, like a dodge button. The fact that this game has no dodge button other than just manually jumping out of the way of attacks is very bad. Like, I get it's an older game, even for an older Platinum Games game, but it's like, it would be so much better for some of those things to be implemented. I get the idea was not to dodge attacks, but to parry them and monopolize on the enemy failing to hurt you. But the controls don't let you parry very well. Like, the controls hold that back from being more fantastic. Offensive defense is not sufficient. Exactly. And the fact that it's just too freaking short. It's so short. Like, I beat that game in probably, like, maybe, well, it wasn't, like, maybe 3 sittings. It was so short. Like, it was too short. Like, its story was told fine in the confines of the small runtime it had, but that game really, really, really should have been a little longer. Like, it's alright up there with Miles Morales of being almost too short of a game. And honestly, I kind of wish... I get why the game was built around sword fighting. So, and I like that, it's really cool, but I kind of wish they had also utilized Raiden's very extensive skill in firearms alongside of it. All you really get for sub-weapons is rocket launchers and grenades. And it's like, I get the point of the game is not to be a gunfighting game, but it's like, I would have liked the option to maybe have a couple of gun options in certain scenarios. Like, say if, or like, but I get it's just not what the game was about. We were going for a realism of Raiden can't carry more than his sword and some grenades into battle. But, you know. Like, it was a really good game. Like, I liked the final boss. Everyone overhates Sundowner's fight. Sundowner is the guy with the shields, right? Is that him? Once I understood how like, I wouldn't... Okay, so here's the problem. I was misunderstanding how, through most of the game, some of the parrying and stuff mechanics worked with that game. So when I went into the Sundowner fight, I was doing it wrong the whole first few times of trying it, and kept going for the wrong mechanics. Because it's like when you do the slowdown thing, I kept using the slowdown mechanic wrong. You're supposed to kind of like flick, and I kept messing it up because it was like a really weird. But as soon as I had the mechanic down of how you're supposed to slow down slice through things, it ended up being a much easier fight, and it was fine. I kept trying to think I had to freaking blast his shields with rockets and grenades first, and then slice through. And then once I realized I was just doing the slowdown slicing wrong, or rather just it's not really well implemented, it wasn't as bad. I had to look up the instructions because I could not remember, because it had been too long since because I started the beginning of the game before I played 4, then I dropped it and did not restart Metal Gear Solid 4, so I forgot the controls. I do keep having some frame droppage. Give me just a second. I might be able to fix that. Okay, I think we're back. And hopefully, Exactly, I feel like A is very impressive for a 5-hour game. Like, honestly, if the elements of the game that I think were major flaws with Metal Gear Solid Rising had been addressed properly, or if, well, then we would be dealing with an S-tier game, because it's a lot of fun. But it's the few flaws it has bring it down to A, personally. Like, it's a lot of goofy fun, and the story is kind of silly and nonsensical, but it's like the flaws it has that pulls it down a bit. Like, I feel like I can't in good conscience give it an S tier for the flaws involved. If it played like Nier Automata, I might tweak that a little bit, but anyway, I don't want to spend too much. Memes are a plot. Like, the game is a lot of fun. I just wish it was more fun to play in terms of gameplay. Like, I died so many times at the final boss just because the slowdown swiping mechanic is sometimes so bad for no reason. It's not consistent. I died to the final boss way more times than I should have just because some elements of the gameplay were not what they should have been. Anyway, moving on next, the last game we finished in September was the first half of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, which is essentially the Great Ace Attorney 1. And am I? I feel like I'm really just gonna put it in the A tier. It's not good enough to be an S tier game. Kazuma, we respect you and mourn your loss. Like, honestly, if I was to look at the Great Ace Attorney, visual novels are game. Yeah, I clowned on it a little while ago. It is more than a visual novel, but like in terms, like in terms of the Ace Attorney series, it's definitely one of the best entries in it. I think, like it does different things. It does a different format of those things interestingly well, and the premise is pretty good. The characters are pretty good. I miss Sasuto. She's a great girl. Dude, what keeps happening to my frames? Like, what is going on the internet today? This is gonna make doing Jackbox afterwards difficult. I'm trying to speed through this. I didn't think I would be taking this long on this small amount of a list. Like, but yeah, Great Ace Attorney was really fun. I really enjoyed it. It had good new gameplay mechanics. It was like, I don't have a lot of complaints with it, other than the fact that I think maybe it could have used maybe one more case in that game. And I've heard the Great Ace Attorney series itself has probably needed another game to flesh out its full story, so we may see more of that rushed nature in the next entry. Small list, big talk. That's true. It's mostly because I decided to actually categorize games I replayed this year because it was too small of a list otherwise. The gay Ace. Okay, so now we've reached Spooktober. With October, there was only 4 games that month that we finished. Only 3 of them were Spooktober games. There was Return, that one game that was only 1 stream's worth of a game. Return's gonna go in C, I think. It wasn't horrible, but it had some flaws. Like, there wasn't a lot of horror elements. It was padded out by some really obnoxious, tedious puzzles that did not feel very rewarding to do. The running mechanic from those monsters was pretty busted and took away a lot of my enjoyment near the end of the game. And I feel like it ended prematurely. Like, I feel like more should have happened in that game, and it didn't happen, personally. Like, it feels like a missed opportunity. Though I did hear that, that's the thing, for a horror game, there wasn't a lot of actual horror elements, just it was really an unsettling environment. It's like, I expected more out of it. Though its art style, both pixel and artwork style, was phenomenal. I really loved it. The art style was beautiful. I can't fault it for that. I did see that it was getting a sequel made that picks up where the previous game leaves off, and it implies that the boyfriend that she leaves at the end of the game is still sort of pseudo-possessed by the little child from that game. The little evil girl, or at least seemingly, or spooky, mysterious girl that wasn't confirmed evil. She seems like she's got a hold on this boyfriend guy, and that seems where the next game's premise begins from. So, who knows? Maybe the sequel will do more things I actually wanted. This plot was a massive headache. Okay, next up was My Big Sister. where do I put this? Ugh. My Big Sister is an interesting one. It's one of those super short enough games that we platinumed in one night. But you know, honestly, I'll put Big Sister in the B tier, honestly. Like, it was way better than Just Ignore Them. And while it was still very short, it had a lot of creepy, unsettling things. It wasn't terrifying, but it had a pretty interesting story. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. Again, it's kind of borderline. It's kind of slowly sinking near the C tier, but that's just mostly because, like, major flaws with that game would be mostly that it's just too short, and that it feels like there's not a lot of actual horror elements where you're gonna actually get got. But there was a couple. Before I hate Twitch. I'm gonna try refreshing it again. Give me a sec. There might be only so much you can do for RPG Maker games. I mean, that's true too. Like, and what it does do, it still does well. I think there's more entries from their series Maker that I want to try and do on future Spooktobers. I think I found them. Like, I think it's called the Red Hood or something, or the Red Girl or something, which is a reference to the girl in that game. So there's more to its lore, which I want to touch on in some future Spooktober. But that's all I gotta say about Big Sister. It's just good. Alright, next one in October was Dead Rising 2. This one's... Honestly, Dead Rising 2 probably also goes in the B tier. Easily my favorite entry so far in the Dead Rising series, and protagonist Jack Green, Chuck Green, The Prophecy of Hip Hop. I'm only listening to the games I've played, yes, and they're not games that restrictively came out this year, just my thoughts on the games I played this year. It's like, coming of Christ. But, Chuck Green, Prophecy of Hip Hop. Dead Rising 2 was was a more fun than Dead Rising 1, both in terms of gameplay and just a goofier plot. Chuck Green is a fantastic protagonist, honestly. If I had to make a list off of protagonists from the games I played this year, Chuck Green would probably be an S-tier protagonist, because he's really fun. I really do love Chuck Green, but, like, his game is not good enough to be A rank, I feel like. Right, it's like I don't know, like, what I feel like it could do more to be a higher rank. Like, maybe it could be a borderline A tier. It's like, Dead Rising 2 is definitely a high B tier game, for sure. Like, it's just a little bit short, but it's great replayability, though. So it's like, it's meant to be replayed, so there's that. Like,
just like Mom used to make.
I love that. I couldn't see it coming because I can't see the capture footage. But I really did love Dead Rising 2. And definitely next Spooktober, I want to do Dead Rising 2, the off-the-record version, where you play with Frank. Rest my case. So I'll move on again. And then the last one for October was Pokemon Shield. And I have to think about this one because I'm actually putting Scarlet and Violet in here as well. I'll put it in... I think I'm going to put it in C. I had a lot of fun with it this year.
Get a load of this!
I had a lot of fun with it this year with Pokemon Shield, playing as Aqua as a protagonist, and Aqua having Fatal Frame. I did not, but I do want to play Fatal Frame. We Fatal Frame 5. I don't know if I didn't realize it was 5. Like Pokemon Shield, it still suffers from all the problems that Pokemon Shield suffers with. Pretty bad story, really bad pacing, really small story and small overworld. But playing Scarlet and Violet and playing through it again help me respect the things it does do right, where the linear pathways, while there's not much to explore or see, they are very nicely designed areas, but because they're set pieces and not something you can explore, because the explorable overworld is really terrible. The difficulty is super low. In the cast, I know people have these massive hard-ons for the gym leaders of Sword and Shield. I just don't feel connected with any of those gym leaders as actual characters. So, except for a few of them, like old lady Opal, she was great. Marn's brother, I forgot his name. He was pretty good. As a character, though. Like, they're all great gym leaders, but they're not great characters. Raihan's an okay character. Piers was it is, thank you. This is not a revolution, guys. And, like, but that's kind of really where it ends to me in terms of the gym leaders being memorable characters. I mean, plus it doesn't help that 2 games each have exclusive gym leaders that you will never see the opposite version. I don't understand why they thought that was a great idea. And again, this is me not judging the DLC because I never played the DLC. But its story is really where it brings it down a lot for me. Like, even playing through it again with Aqua was fun because it was fun to make up a themed water/ice team, and just to make Aqua dress up and drip. That was really the most fun I had with Shield. And honestly, having played Scarlet and Violet, I do miss just being able to have the freedom to do dress up. So Shield still has that in its favor. But just because I had fun with it does not absolve it from its flaws and the things I didn't like about it. And those things still stay the same. I'm telling you, exactly. Like, imagine, look up here, Pokemon Colosseum and Arceus and Explorers of the Sky. All Pokemon titles that I put in the A rank. Emerald's B just because it's aged, and it still hasn't aged great. Then it's like everything after that is below B. So, that's it for October. And unfortunately, there was nothing that I finished in November. Like, November was Harvest Moon month, and I didn't finish anything in November. If I did finish something in November, I can't remember it. It must have been so small and so inconsequential that I don't remember doing it. So, I have nothing for November. At least August had Sonic Adventure 2, but most of August was me finishing up and working through the Great Ace Attorney and Bug Fables. So, nothing in November for the thing is, we gamed in November, but we didn't finish anything in November. So December is our last month, and it had 4 games I finished, surprisingly. Technically I didn't finish Scarlet, but I'm counting it. So we've got Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet, and they'll both go in the same spot, but they were both 2 games I finished this year. And I'm probably gonna get some level of hate for it. I kind of want to put it in the A tier, Scarlet and Violet, but like, it's, I don't know, it's like, I think it's good enough to be out of B tier, but definitely not good enough to be an S tier. I still feel like I enjoyed it enough. You did watching, I don't care. So it's like, I talked a little bit about this in the last Pokemon Scarlet and Violet stream, but obviously, graphically wise, it's still lacking. It feels more like a high quality GameCube or Wii game in terms of some of its graphic textures. I don't really judge solely on that. The premise of the game was a lot of fun with the big overworld, exploring it how you like to do it. A lot of fun. A really solid selection of Pokemon, lots of good new Pokemon. The first time that Pokemon decided not to do a villain story, and it actually did a pretty decent job of its storytelling. Big flaws were the fact that you can't truly go any path you want when you want. You still have to do certain things in certain orders if you actually want to have a proper challenge of certain things. But it was fun playing in the overworld and exploring it. I wish there was more things to do with friends other than just walk around and the whole game went as hard as Area Zero. Very good point. I wish the Area Zero plotline had been expanded and foreshadowed a little bit more. It would have been even better. But it still was a very good entry. Like, people, and like, some of the glitches I had actually made the game more fun. Like, everyone's broken emotes and stuff like that. Is that, again, yes, sick concept, extremely underutilized. Like, it's definitely, I saw this on a comment before about the game, it's like, it makes a great idea. The professors of the game, like Sada and Toro, they had a lot of early warning flags of them that if they had not died, they would have definitely become villains. Like, for sure. Like, they had all the proper makings of it, but they died still as decent people with some questionable desires. So, you know, and like, because it was definitely there. I think that would have been pretty cool if they had done that, but that would require even more effort. I'm just hoping Gen 5's remakes will be built off of the gameplay style of Scarlet and Violet. Truly, truly hope that they'll take a hint from Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl's massive failure in terms of a game, maybe not of sales, but as a game, and not do that for Gen 5 and do something like Scarlet and Violet for Gen 5. Please. I'm begging you, Game Freak. Please, don't let someone else make the remakes again. Please, God. Table-sama. But no, Scarlet and Violet was a lot of fun to play. Like, any Pokemon game that makes me unable to put it down and just want to keep playing it until I'm done is a good Pokemon game, in my opinion. Really good. Even if it has some glitches and it wasn't as nice as it could have been and it should have needed another year in the table. Honestly, if it had another year in the oven and ironed out all of those flaws, it probably would be an S-tier Pokemon game. I'm going to be honest with you. Because there's a lot of potential there on the table and it wasn't fully utilized. Alright. Just breaking with you guys. Yeah, exactly. There's that too. Alright, goes without saying, I feel like, for me, the next game, and probably, maybe the last S-tier game for this year was Xenoblade 3, for sure. Like, Xenoblade 3 had so much things in it that I liked. It was easily the most fun Xenoblade game I've played. Like, it was leagues more fun than Xenoblade 2, and it was, in my opinion, gameplay-wise, better than Xenoblade 1. Like, it was really fun to play. It had, in my opinion, the best cast of a Xenoblade cast, for sure. Leagues and bounds over Xenoblade 2's cast. Even the great members of Xenoblade's 2 cast can't compare enough to Dune. Why not like this? There you go. Some great emotional moments. I feel like the pacing in Chapter 6 and some of Chapter 7 was a little wonky after the massive climax of Chapter 5. Like, it was a little bit weird. It didn't have the millions amounts of streams it took for... Exactly. No game is bloated as Persona 5. Right, I finished basically the whole game of Xenoblade 3 by the time you're getting into the last quarter to last fifth of the game of Persona 5. So, I mean, Persona 5 did not need to be as bloated as it was. Like, I like the fact that there was very little grinding-based elements in Xenoblade 3. I like that rather than having heart-to-hearts, you just get those scenes by doing side quests and just seeing how they react to each other. All those things are great. There's no friendship mechanics. It's just... Like, Xenoblade 3 was really good. I'm still torn and not 100% sure if I want to say Xenoblade 1 or 3 has the best Xenoblade story. It's so hard to tell. Like, what makes Xenoblade 3's story better is its cast. The cast helps make that story even more impactful than it normally would. But, like, the level of fresh material I felt like that Xenoblade 1 did and touched on cannot be denied. Because, like, Xenoblade 1's story was very fresh and very... Well, maybe not. It felt fresh in certain ways, and a lot of its fantasy elements were very different for an RPG. Again, yes, made to be more complete. It felt more resolved and whatnot. And so it's like, I think maybe in certain angles, Xenoblade 1 has a better story than Xenoblade 3, but in other perspectives, Xenoblade 3 can have a better story. It's like, it's almost like comparing apples to oranges, even though they're both sold to the same fruit vendor. It's like, they're both great quality items. It's like, I think just what is the better story is really comes down to personal taste, I think. Excuse me. Like, I don't know. There's just not a whole lot more I need to say about Xenoblade 3 that wasn't already said. It's just like, if you haven't seen it or played it, my whole playthrough should be up on YouTube soon. And it's a really fun ride, in my opinion. It was a very, very good game, very good series. Easily deserving of an S-tier title in this year's rankings.
Oh yeah, baby!
Oh yeah. And surprisingly, I have one more game, and it was Marvel's The Guardians of the Galaxy, which came out in 2021. And I didn't think I was gonna finish it this year, but it was short enough that I finished it on New Year's Eve, and started it like a few days after Christmas. And honestly, okay, so for certain things that it does, and that it does well, I think I want to put it in S. And I'll explain why, especially for anyone who actually hasn't seen the Guardians of the Galaxy game. I may change my opinion as it sits with me a little bit longer, but like, the Guardians of the Galaxy were definitely one of my favorite types of Marvel movies that came out within the last several years. The concept of the Guardians was really fun. So I really already liked the Guardians of the Galaxy as characters. So playing the game, I honestly didn't think I was gonna like it that much. By the looks of the trailers, I thought it was gonna be like an action game versions of a Telltale game. because they made a big deal about how your opinion, your choices in the game can affect the story and stuff. So I thought, oh, okay, it's basically the Telltale games, but with actual gameplay inside. And it's not, actually. It's very much an action game, and it's designed around the action game. You basically just play as Star-Lord. Your choices actually do matter in this game, though. Like, certain choices will help certain characters come back in important moments in the game later on and stuff. But, like, it's not a continuation of the Guardians from the movies. It is a completely different continuity of them, like another universe's set of characters. It does a really... the Goron music's back. I've been here too long. So the characters are all handled really well. The characters are both mostly new to each other, so they haven't been doing the Guardian stuff for a while. So all these characters have a lot of new character syndrome to all of them. Like, none of the members really know each other. So it's like you're seeing the characters develop their connections to each other as the game progresses. So, but like, you feel like you already know them because a lot of them sound like the MCU counterparts in a way. Some of them do. Like, so it tells it, but like it's only, but like it doesn't like hurt them by you thinking them like the MCU counterparts. Like, all the characters have very complete character arcs. I was very surprised by how well they handled Drax, because Drax was so bad in the movie, because he's just like, okay, you take the idea of a creature race that can't understand sarcasm, and then you make them an idiot. Just because they can't understand sarcasm. The game handles Drax, he doesn't understand sarcasm, but he is far from a stupid character. He's very intelligent. He just speaks very frankly. And they really touch on a lot of the character arcs of him, like how Thanos killed his parents, or his family, and stuff like that. So it's like they touch on a lot of their characters' different character arcs, and they really flesh into them really well. So story-wise, it's a really great game. The music is really good, especially a lot of the 80s style music that's also added in. The gameplay is pretty fun. You really only play as Peter Quill, the Star-Lord. So the game is mostly blaster-based combat, but like action, like dodging blaster combat, where you're also controlling through commands the other Guardian members to do their cool stuff too. So it's like you're not playing as the other ones, but you're still sort of controlling them. I really only died once or twice, so it wasn't ultra hard, but it was still really fun. So it's like, it's not like I wouldn't call it a perfect game, but like, it did a lot of great things. It had a really good cast, it had a really good soundtrack, it had good gameplay, like it was fun gameplay. The character arcs were all good and convincing. It was longer than I expected it to be, but not too long that it felt padded out. And it just kind of, I don't know, it's like, I feel like it mostly pretty much nailed every aspect it tackled. I can see maybe if you're not a fan of the superhero stuff, it's not crazy good, but like, it's sci-fi characters. Like, sure, they're still superhero characters, but like, it's not really connected to some greater Marvel nonsense or anything. It's just a game inspired off of the superhero characters, and it's like, it doesn't really tap into the greater superhero stuff too much. It's really fun. It was really good. I don't know if I would do it on stream or not. It's definitely short enough to have probably be done in a handful of streams if people wanted to see it. I only got like 3 or 4 wrong. Psychic attack. So it's like, yeah, it was just a solid game. It was surprisingly good. I was expecting it to have some bigger flaws in it than it did, and it just, I don't know. It's like, it didn't really have any glaring issues. Other than, I don't know. I can't really think of a whole lot of issues it had. Like, I struggle, like, again, it's like, not so much that it's a perfect game, but just more so it's like, for what it was going for, it got what it was going for done. So it's like, it just kind of nailed itself, if that makes sense. But that's the whole list. How many did I even play? Let me count them all this year. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the S tier. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. 29 games? That's not bad. 2022 anime list. I haven't watched any. Oh, hold on. You guys are seeing that, aren't you? Yeah, I don't want that showing up. Give me a second. It's just S. Bobobo. Fair point. I never did get to any of the other... Okay, close that out. So that was my games tier list for the year. A little more games than I expected I played, despite the fact that I didn't finish anything in November. Did I really sit here for 2 hours and talk? Surprisingly, I guess I did. So, I mean, I had a lot of good games this year. It says something that nothing got into F tier this year, which is good. That just tells me I did not waste my time this year with bad games. And even the ones I did play that were bad, they still were able to have your own fun. Yeah, it says you're coping. So, well, like I said, I tend to reserve the F tier for games that are honestly, truly so awful that they have no redeemable traits in them at all. And broken and shipped early Pokemon games, they are bad. They are bad, yes. But they are not absolute bottom of the barrel bad. There is still other games I would play that I would not play over Diamond and Pearl's remakes. Like, you held a gun to my head and say pick either this or this really awful bad game. Like, say play a bunch of FNAF ripoffs. You can have your opinion. It's like there is still some fun to be had in the Diamond and Pearl remakes. Just if I was playing the games just for the sake of experiencing the series again, I definitely would have just played Platinum again instead of play. But like that wasn't. It was to play at the new entries, not so much to play the Diamond and Pearl again. If that makes sense. Oh, my Joy-Cons are dying. I didn't even know Pokemon was still open. I need to close this game. Almost any game. Oh, wait, I didn't do that one. Oh, you're right, Sora. I didn't even see it on there. It was, hold on, I'm just gonna pull it back up, but I completely forgot about that game being a thing. I'll add it in there real quick. I'm not gonna bother to pull the thing back up. Is it gonna be B tier? Nah, I'm actually gonna Drunk Aqua. You know, I forgot about. I'm like, I sort of remembered it when you guys were saying about the jump scares. I'm like, oh yeah, but I forgot. It wasn't Little Nightmares. What was it called? Oh, it was Among the Sleep. So I had 30 games. And I'm gonna put that in this, and honestly, I'm gonna put it in the C tier. Quick reasons why. There wasn't a lot of scary things in it. Like, that game, the worst thing that scared me in that game was not the game. It was me jump scared by my own shadow. That was not that scary of a game. it was a nice looking game, but I definitely feel like because they went for a more down to earth situation where like the child, it was all in its head. There was no real evil, and it was just the child coping with his parents separating. It had some creepy settings, but it was like Shadow scares me too. Like it was like I don't know. It was okay, but like I felt like it could have been a lot more. So that was the problem I had with it. Is that it felt like it was missed potential. Like it just didn't go far enough into any particular thing. It wasn't really as scary as it could have been. I don't know. It just like it felt like it was an okay game overall, but it really doesn't rise above it when it potentially could have. And that's I think what bothered me about it. Is that it just didn't rise up like a true gamer and really embraced any particular thing. But its little story was okay. God, that potato. So, I know it's been a little bit longer than I expected it to be. I really only expected that list to take an hour, and it's been 2. So, give me a couple of minutes. If you want to just hang out in the chat room and chat, I'm just going to have to end this stream so that I can officially archive it. And then we can play some Jackbox then. For those of you that are still here, that still would like to play it. We don't have to play any of the ones nobody wants to play. Like, if no one really wants to play Quiplash, we don't have to or something like that. But I guess it'll just depend up to you guys, so. Anyone who wants to go into VC can probably go into VC. Ramirez be malting. Ramirez probably won't join us in VC, but I will be paying attention to both voice chat and the stream, so. Excuse me. But, I guess thanks for joining me here for the first sort of stream of the new year by me going over all the things I played this year. I'm honestly surprised it ended up still being 30, despite the fact that, it didn't really feel like I'd played that many. I feel like I played more games off-stream than on-stream this year, or about maybe around the same amount-ish. I played a lot of Pokemon games this year. Next year, not nearly as many Pokemon games. The only Pokemon games I'm planning for this year at all are going to be Pokemon XD and probably Pokemon Arceus. Those are probably the only 2 I'm really thinking of playing. Unless something gets released somewhere mid to late this year of a spin-off title that I would really love to play. I'm not counting on it, but you never know what the Pokemon Company will do. So that's kind of just the scanning of it. So, I also said I was going to be doing the next part of the Great Ace Attorney in December, and because December was so wonky, we didn't do that, so. Pokemon Uranium. I've heard of that. I've seen some decent looking ROM hacks, but like there's always something about Pokemon ROM hacks that it's like, I feel like because it's a spin-off game, or it's a non-canon game or whatever, I always have a hard time justifying playing any of those type of games. Don't know if they're good or not, though. Anyway, hang out here for a minute, and I'll be back in just a few short minutes with the Jackbox. So I'll be right back. And for those who are not, they're always hard as balls. Hard as Pokeballs, you might say. So thanks for joining me. Happy New Year, guys, for those of you who are seeing this later. And, yep, I'll be back in just a few minutes. Bye-bye, guys, and Happy New Year.